What is up, guys? Welcome back for another exciting episode of Psycho Gamer. I am your host, Aubrey. Today we are going to go ahead and talk about the recently announced Arcade1up machine, Miss Pac-Man. Now, I know I haven't really talked about it too much, other than one little video, but today we're going to talk about it and go over the machine and what we're going to be expecting. So stay tuned for the trailer from Arcade1up, and we'll be right back. Well, like I said, Miss Pac-Man is being re-released in arcade form. Now, many of us have been looking at Miss Pac-Man for many years. Original release date for Miss Pac-Man was in 1982. So we're talking 28 years. No, 38 years, I'm sorry. 38 years for Miss Pac-Man being released. Now, they have had a couple of other official iterations that came out there. I think there was a Miss Pac-Man Galaga kind of release, but you were talking an arcade machine that was going to cost you many thousands of dollars in order to be able to get the full arcade experience in your home. So, Miss Pac-Man is obviously being re-released by Arcade1up later this year, 2020. Don't have an exact name yet, or exact date yet for it. But hopefully they'll be able to give us something a little more to it. Now, a little bit of backstory on Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man was not always Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man was a game that was supposed to be kind of like a mod of Pac-Man, as you could say. The original name was going to be Crazy Otto. It was going to be a Pac-Man-like character with legs. And instead of ghosts, there were these little creatures that had a couple little antennas that would go side to side. Very interesting concept, except it kind of caused them to get sued. So yes, don't mess with the original intellectual property and try to release it as an official game unless you've got an express permission, guys. So they kind of made up the companies, and then they finally released Miss Pac-Man. One of the things about Miss Pac-Man that people really enjoyed was the fact that they have multiple maps instead of just your plain Jane Pac-Man map. So with the ability to kind of change it up a little bit, people really enjoyed it. Myself, I liked Pac-Man. I really enjoyed Miss Pac-Man more than Pac-Man. I think it was a little bit more fast-paced, and the fact they did even release a couple versions of it with a turbo button really resonated well with me. Now, it wasn't the same plain game all the time, so that's one thing that I think a lot of people really liked, because they had to kind of think outside the box a little bit when it came to playing that particular arcade machine. Now, when they started releasing things like that at home with your Miss Pac-Man games for the Atari consoles, people really got a chance to play them at home if they didn't have a chance to go out to play in an arcade, or in my case, at an International House of Pancakes in Pasadena, California. That is no longer around, unfortunately. But I did play many quarters worth of time with that game. Now, there were other places I actually personally got to go play Miss Pac-Man. SC3 was one of the main places I went to that kind of re-energized my love for that particular game. So, I actually have a poster up on my wall. Southern California Collectors is really what it stands for. It's a great thing that actually goes on every year that is hosted by a couple friends of mine. I can post a link down below for SC3, so if you want a little bit of extra information, it's either going to be a web page or it's also going to be either a Facebook page, because they do like posting some of the events there. I do believe this year's got either delayed or canceled. I have to look at that a little bit more. But check it out, SC3, and see some of the stuff that they're doing, not specific with that game, but also other arcade machines and events that they hold yearly as well. So what we are going to do now, we're going to go ahead and click into my desktop, because what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at the cabinet that they are releasing for Miss Pac-Man. I know I've done this before in some of my other videos, but I think people do want to take a look and see what they're going to be getting. So here's my desktop, and we're going to do a little bit of zooming in here, because Miss Pac-Man is obviously not the only game that's going to be in the arcade machine, much like all of the other arcade cabinets that Arcade1up has been releasing. They're going to have multiple games. When we're looking at, I guess you could say, the left side of the machine, it's going to have your classic look. So if you take a look at, how the original arcade looks, this is going to be very true to how the banners on the side of the actual machine were actually going to look. The actual riser is going to be kind of an extension of that, so you definitely do want to have the riser on there. So if you're taller than, say, 4 or 5 feet, you're going to be able to get the ability to play standing up, as opposed to having to get a stool or a chair in order to be able to look at, face to screen as you really could. Next screen, basically it's your front profile on this. You got your standard marquee at the very top for Miss Pac-Man. I don't know if it's going to actually light up myself. I haven't seen anything specifically on it, but I would hope it lights up like many of the old arcade machines. If not, there's a couple of companies that are out there that are doing modifications that are kind of re-releasing that marquee with a backlight, so you can actually have that full arcade feel. When it comes to the games that they're showing on there, obviously Miss Pac-Man is the main title of the arcade machine, but they are going to be coming out with Galaxian, Pac-mania, and Pac-Man Plus. Now, Galaxian was kind of like the sequel to Galaga, just not quite as good. So I did see some message boards that people were asking, well, why didn't it have Galaga? Well, because they've already released a Pac-Man machine that already has Galaga in it. So I think it was their 40th anniversary arcade machine. So go check that one out if you haven't actually seen the video that I talked about that as well. Pac-mania and Pac-Man Plus, I never really played those ones quite so much, so I'm not as familiar with those two particular games. However, it was in the Pac-Man time where you had Pac-Man cereal, you had Pac-Man the cartoon, you had Pac-Man music, the song that they released for it, Pac-Man Fever. So that was one of the big songs for arcades back in that time period, because it integrated the sounds of Pac-Man along with an actual song that would come on the radio. So we're actually going to look at the joystick right here. Now, you are going to have your standard 1 and 2 players, buttons on the front there, just like you're going to find in your arcade. You're going to have your on and off button. You're going to have your volume control. And I'm assuming this is for your fire button for playing Galaxian here. So the only button that I know of that would be needed for any of these games. If the other games work just like regular Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, it's just straight joystick. Your 4-directional joystick there. Going to look at the right side of the actual cabinet now as well. It looks pretty much identical to the left side as well. So this is going to be an amazing arcade machine if you want that nostalgia to play out. If you're not a big fan of Pac-Man or Galaxian or even Miss Pac-Man, then you may want to skip this one. Maybe put your money towards getting the X-Men vs. Street Fighter or the Marvel vs. Capcom arcade machines that are going to be coming out sometime later this year as well. Again, those ones they don't have an exact street date for other than just 2020. They did manage to just come out with the NBA Jam for the arcade machine with the 4-player 5 controllers. So you're going to be able to play online with that with multiple people. So from what I've seen from reviews, a lot of people are really enjoying that, other than the fact that the new NBA Jam is missing a few players due to licensing issues when it comes to those players, either specifically with them or with their families. So if you haven't checked that out, go check out my video on that. I think you're really going to like that one. And there's obviously other review videos that are out there of it being out as well. So just check out YouTube here, and you're going to see some really good footage when it comes to this. Now, that's all I got for you tonight, guys. So go check out Miss Pac-Man. Go check the information out, Arcade1up.com. Check out the rest of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for me, guys. I really do appreciate it. And as always, guys, game on.